everyone, it's Julia. I am back with a couple sweatshirt redos. I just recently purchased these two colors. This is the Comfort Wash, and they're made by Hanes. I've not used these shirts before, but they are 80% cotton and 20% polyester. I like the colors. They had some really fun colors to them. This is like a slate blue, and this is, I think this was called Cayenne. I do like the fact that they have an inside that's a little bit of a different contrast in color. So when you roll back the sleeves, it just, you know, you can just do some fun things with that. And I think I'm going to do some deconstruction on them, but I want to keep this one as a longer sweatshirt. So I'll keep the band on it. So it's more of like a tunic. I'll open up the sides a bit and we'll be just doing some decoration on that. And this one I think I'm going to turn into a jacket. I'm going to be using some of the colors from one shirt to the other, and I just really like the combination. So I hope you enjoy this. Let's get started. A little bit about these sweatshirts. They do have a V at the neckline, and they also do not have any side seams. So I'm going to be working with that. I'm going to share a picture here of just inspiration. I got this jacket at a thrift store and did the embellishment on it. But I really like that button placket, and that's how I want to create what I want to create on this sweatshirt. I'm taking my ruler and just drawing a vertical line just beyond that V at the neckline, so approximately 2 inches. And I'm going to be cutting straight up this shirt right on that line and just omitting that strip. I'm going to be using this strip in the other colored sweatshirt, so I'm just going to lay that aside. Next, I'm going to take the cuffs off of this cayenne or rust colored sweatshirt. I'm cutting it about a ½ an inch beyond that sleeve seam or that cuff seam, and then cutting 4 inches of it. And that is going to create one side of that button placket. And then cutting the other cuff off, and that is going to be the other side of that placket. Just measuring to get them the same size. Now I'm going to continue with the deconstruction, taking the cuffs off. Those will be rolled up and edge finished. And for the cuffs, I'm going to turn that cuff into a pocket. One will be laying open, and the other cuff I'll continue to keep it folded and then add a little piece of trim to it. I'm just kind of figuring around what I'm going to do with that pocket. 2 cuffs make 1 pocket, so this one will only have 1 pocket on it. I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and just zigzag a ½ an inch. I'm going to fold that so that raw inside is showing, and also edge finished around those cuffs, just using an applique stitch on my sewing machine. I'm going to be using that applique stitch throughout this project. I felt that these button plackets were a little bit flimsy, so I want to add a stabilizer. I'm using just a blackout drapery lining here, which doesn't fray. And I'm also going to be using this really pretty batik fabric for the decoration. Just put some Heat and Bond light on the back of that petite, and then we'll be just ironing that on. Now, instead of that blackout lining, a sew-in interfacing would work just as well. I'm just going to be cutting that off here. I don't want it to show at all. And to my sewing machine, and I'm going to be edge stitching this with that applique stitch. Now this applique stitch is real similar to like a blanket stitch. and just edge stitching all the way around. And did the same with the other one. I have these wood buttons. They're about 1 1/4 inch. Really like the color of them, and I'll link them down below for you. And I don't like sewing or using the buttonhole holder on my sewing machine. I don't know if anybody else has problems with that, but they just seem like once they'll go fine and then one will mess up, and they're so hard to rip out. And so I'm just going to draw on little rectangles here, spacing them evenly, and I'm just making them a little bit larger than my button. And then I'm going to use that same stitch, only I'm making it narrower and a little bit closer together. And I'll be going around this twice. So this is that same applique stitch, and it looks really similar to a buttonhole. Going over it twice just to get it a little bit more pronounced and a little bit stronger. And then I'll just cut down right down the center of these, just starting it with my ripper, and then I'll continue to slice it with a scissor. Pinning that into place now. And then on the other one, I'm going to take to my sewing machine, and I marked it where I need those buttons to be, and I'm just going to sew my buttons on before I put it into my jacket. I love the buttonhole maker on this sewing machine. It just makes such an easy, or button sewer on or attachment. Makes it really easy to sew on buttons. I finished that off, just put those plackets in just by sewing right on top of the previous seam, trimming, and there it completes that button placket. It was really easy to do. Onto the pocket, I want to stretch that folded cuff on the top a little bit, just to make it so it's just has a little bit of gathering to it. And then it always has a fold line on that bottom part, and you can't iron that out or press that out. So I'm just going to put a little bit of a trim or a little bit of that batik on that fold line. Sewing this little embellishment on, and there you can see that batik as well. Put another button on, and then I'm going to round the corners and then trim the top part just to give it that shape of a pocket. Just folding it to get both ends or both sides even. And there's what it looks like. I'm just going to pin that right on to the right side of my jacket. And we'll be taking this to the sewing machine and again stitching it. And then I'm going to use that same buttonhole, or that same stitch, that same applique stitch. I do start with the zigzag that goes back and forth. That's going to be a stress seam right at the top of that pocket. On to the next one. Want to cut that V out. And I can see it really easily on that underside there. I really like the underside parts of these sweatshirts, and so I do like that to show when I turn back the cuffs. It's just kind of a cool look. And you can see there I will edge finish those cuffs, and then I'm just going to cut up about 5 inches on that side seam. Again, there is no side seams on here, but I'm just going to fold it and make it even somewhat, and then cut that 5 inches up on both sides just to give it some wiggle room. Now I have that other strip from the other jacket, and I want to use that little V and put it into this one. I'm just going to cut a little slit down so it's easy to get over the neck. And I just thought that just added a little pop of color to the neckline. Pinning it for now, and it will be just stitching that in. And now for the decoration. I'm going to be making a bunch of 9 slits on one side of this. I'm going to stick my ruler in there so I don't cut through it all. And so I have a hard surface to draw these slits. Approximately 1.5 inches, I would say, in length on these slits. And like I said, you want an odd number, so I did 9. And now I'm just taking my scissor and I'm cutting right on those slits. I'm going to be weaving fabric in these slits. Have some of that batik fabric and then this long strip that I cut off, and just weaving that through. And that top one I'm just going to tuck under. And then found a couple interesting trims. One was just gifted to me. I just really love the bright colors. And I'm going to again just take this and weave it in the same way. And doing 1 pin at the top. And now I'm just taking some slits. I really like that underneath color of this sweatshirt, and so I want that to show on this design. And you'll see that closer when I do my stitching, how I'm going to turn that. I've got my little V all finished and all sewn in, and my cuffs and my side seams are done. And now to sew that little embellishment, I'm using a multicolored thread on this. And I have my feed dogs dropped and I have my free motion foot on, and I'm just going to be doing some doodling. The multicolored thread adds a real interest to this. And here you can see I'm folding up over one of those little flaps and just continuing. Almost done here. I'm going to leave this tail. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to tie a knot. And just doing it, just a little bit of trimming and a little bit of fringing on that bottom edge. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed this, everyone. I've just got one more week or a couple more weekends left at the flea market. It's fall is in the air, so I thought these sweatshirts would really add to my shop in these last couple weekends. Hope you enjoyed this. Bye for now.